India operates as a modern nation-state, yet its internal landscape is tethered to a civilization that has survived largely intact for millennia. Look beneath the surface of the modern landscape, and the foundations of this continuity become visible. In an age when most human settlements were temporary, the Indus Valley Civilization was building permanent, grit-based cities. These excavated ruins at Harappa reveal a society that mastered standardized brickwork and planned streets over 4,000 years ago. As urban centers expanded, the region's intellectual focus shifted toward organized philosophy and spiritual expansion. The Sanchi Stupa, with its massive hemispheric dome, remains a physical record of how early Indian thought, specifically Buddhism, began to unify the subcontinent and spread across Asia. This cultural expansion was followed by political consolidation under the Mauryan Empire. Chandragupta Maurya used the pragmatic statecraft of his advisor, Chanakya, to unify disparate kingdoms, a process that reached its height under Ashoka the Great, who governed nearly the entire subcontinent through a centralized administrative code. These early successes in urban planning and imperial administration generated a concentration of wealth and social complexity that stayed consistent for centuries. By the medieval period, the subcontinent's resources had become a primary focal point for global trade and migration. The medieval era brought a shift in political power with the arrival of Islamic dynasties. Qutb-ud-Din Aibak signaled this new authority through massive construction projects, beginning the Qutb Minar as a permanent vertical assertion of sovereignty in Delhi. This tradition of monumental architecture reached its absolute peak during the Mughal dynasty. Rulers used the massive construction of Humayun's tomb and the high sandstone walls of the Red Fort to project an image of central power that was visible to both subjects and foreign rivals. Shah Jahan redirected the empire's vast wealth toward the Taj Mahal, a project that pushed Mughal craftsmanship and engineering to its structural limits. It stood as a testament to an empire that controlled nearly a quarter of the world's GDP. However, this centralized power eventually fractured. By the 19th century, the British East India Company began dismantling Mughal authority piece by piece. The final emperor, Bahadur Shah Zafar, presided over a dissolving court as the era of imperial rule gave way to colonial occupation. The administrative structures and immense riches built up by these empires were precisely what made the subcontinent such a lucrative target for colonization. As the British consolidated control, India's wealth was redirected, and its people lost the right to govern themselves. Resistance began early and violently. In 1857, a large-scale uprising by Indian soldiers challenged British rule in the First War of Independence. Though suppressed, it ended the East India Company's private rule and brought India under the direct control of the British Crown. By the late 19th century, the struggle moved from the battlefield to the political and philosophical arena. The Indian National Congress was formed in 1885 to organize the push for self-rule, while figures like Swami Vivekananda gave the movement intellectual weight by asserting Indian cultural identity on the global stage in 1893. The cost of challenging British authority was often paid in blood. In 1919, at Jallianwala Bagh, colonial troops fired on a peaceful crowd. The bullet holes still visible in these walls turned a local tragedy into a national catalyst for total independence. This tragedy accelerated the rise of Mahatma Gandhi. Born in Gujarat, he transformed the independence movement by introducing mass civil disobedience. His strategy involved mobilizing millions of ordinary citizens to peacefully refuse cooperation, reaching a climax with the 1942 Quit India movement. Gandhi's nonviolence was complemented by the militant pressure of Subhas Chandra Bose. By forming the Azad Hind Fauj, or Indian National Army, Bose proved that the British could no longer rely on the absolute loyalty of the Indian military to maintain their occupation. This two-pronged pressure, a massive civilian population that refused to be ruled, and an organized military force ready to fight, made the colonial state unsustainable. The British government was forced to acknowledge that its era of dominance had reached its end. As the prospect of independence became a reality, leaders turned to the pen to unify a diverse population. Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay's Vande Mataram provided a lyrical focus for national identity, serving as a unifying anthem throughout the final years of the struggle. This cultural work was finalized by Rabindranath Tagore, who composed Jana Gana Mana. His words defined the geographic and cultural boundaries of the coming nation, and the song was adopted as the national anthem of a free India. On August 15, 1947, the dream of self-rule was realized. Jawaharlal Nehru took office as the first prime minister, facing the immediate task of building a modern administrative state out of the chaos of independence and partition. The final transition from a colony to a republic occurred on January 26, 1950. With the formal adoption of the Indian Constitution, the nation officially replaced British legal frameworks with a democratic system of its own making. This history, from Harappan bricks to the halls of Parliament, is the blueprint for the world's largest democracy. The modern Indian state functions by managing these inherited layers: the ancient urban traditions, the medieval administrative centers, and the hard-won